I thank you, Madam President. First of all, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to our new colleague from France. And we thank Under Secretary General Tom Fletcher for his very sobering briefing on the humanitarian situation in Gaza and the occupied Palestinian territories. Madam President, we are at another tragic milestone in the war in Gaza and the occupied Palestinian territories. This war and the manner in which the Security Council and the international community respond to the atrocities and actions that have been taken will have a lasting impact on the nature of the world order which we and succeeding generations inherit. 50,000 plus people have been killed in Gaza, 150,000 injured, and 2/3 of them have been women and children. Attacks on hospitals, schools, mosques, civilian centers. Every principle, every article of international law and international humanitarian law have been blatantly violated with impunity. Defying the resolutions of the General Assembly, of the Security Council, of the International Court of Justice. Unless the international community responds with justice to what has happened and is happening in the occupied Palestinian territories, our world order is likely to regress into the barbarism from which the Charter of the United Nations was supposed to rescue us. Madam President, the agreement of 15th January for a ceasefire, for a three-phase ceasefire, offered a sliver of hope for the Palestinian people, for the Israeli people, and for the world community. Phase one of that agreement was implemented, and serious consideration was continuing for the negotiation, elaboration, and implementation of phase 2 and 3 of the agreement as outlined in Resolution 2735 of the Security Council. The Arab and OIC Reconstruction and Peace Plan was under consideration in capitals. It offered a road to peace. But obviously, this glimmer of hope and hope for peace was not to the liking of the extremist leaders who rule Israel today. They see their survival in the continuation of the war. But is this in the interest of the hostages? Is this in the interest of the Israeli people? Is this in the interest of the Palestinians? And is this in the interest of world order? I think the answer is obvious. The first tactic to erode the ceasefire agreement was the imposition of the humanitarian blockade, an attempt to extort concessions beyond the ceasefire agreement of 15th of January. Blocking trucks, cutting off electricity and water, restricting NGOs, preventing access for Muslims to access the holy Al-Aqsa Mosque during the holy month of Ramadan. These are all tactics of the oppressor. And now they have escalated to blatantly violate the ceasefire and resume attacks against the helpless Palestinians in Gaza who were just returning to rebuild their homes. 400, mostly women and children were killed just last night. And if this bombing and artillery attacks continue, hundreds more may be dying as we speak. The Security Council's response must be clear, must be quick, and must be just. Firstly, we must demand a halt to the Israeli attacks in Gaza and the implementation of Resolution 2735. I would like to add that even if there are military targets in civilian facilities, under the Fourth Geneva Convention, there is a prohibition to attacking such targets, even if there are military targets within those civilian facilities. It is a clear injunction of international humanitarian law and cannot be offered as an excuse for the killing of civilians, innocent men, women, and children. Secondly, we hope and ask that the negotiations on Phase 2 and Phase 3 of the ceasefire agreement reflected in Resolution 2735 must be resumed. We call for full implementation of all phases of the Gaza ceasefire agreement, including permanent and comprehensive cessation of Israeli hostilities, return of displaced persons to their homes, withdrawal of Israeli forces, opening all crossings, adequate humanitarian access to all parts of the Gaza Strip, and a comprehensive reconstruction plan for Gaza. 3, humanitarian assistance must be immediately resumed, and the restrictions that have been imposed must be lifted. According to Amnesty International, Israel's, and I quote, Israel's decision to block humanitarian aid to Gaza is a war crime and amounts to collective punishment of the civilian population. It's a continuation of the policy to impose on Palestinians conditions of life calculated to bring about their physical destruction. This is genocide, unquote. Madam President, we demand that adequate funding should be provided for coordinated efforts that are crucial to enable OCHA's 2025 flash appeal for the occupied Palestinian territories to be funded. Donor contributions today are only 173 million of a 4 billion that is required. And UNRWA's unparalleled capacity to deliver emergency, shelter, food, and medical assistance is irreplaceable and must be allowed to operate without obstruction. Fourthly, Madam President, the Israeli aggression in the West Bank must end. Forced displacements, illegal land annexations, and settler violence must be reversed in accordance with Security Council resolutions 2720 and 2334. Finally, Madam President, we must ensure the revival of a credible and irreversible political process towards a two-state solution and the establishment of an independent, sovereign Palestinian state within the pre-67 borders with Al-Quds al-Sharif as its capital. This is the only viable path to durable peace. The upcoming June conference, co-chaired by France and Saudi Arabia, is an important opportunity for the peaceful resolution of the Palestinian question and the implementation of the two-state solution. But, Madam President, to realize the possibility of peace, Israel's aggression, its attacks, and its slaughter of the Palestinians must stop. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Pakistan.